Okay, good. Okay, cool. Well, I think that's the most complicated start to one of these streams that I've had. All right, can't win them all, eh? How's everyone doing? Hope good. Um, yeah, sorry I couldn't get it done last week. I was in Brazil, and the internet at the hotel was shit. It was like, yeah, it was really bad. I think it was just where my room was situated. But I tried, tried setting up the stream and it just wouldn't connect. Like I had a really dodgy connection with YouTube. So I thought better to just delay it a week and then try and do it properly, you know? Dickie Claire, please, yeah, send me that track, man. We've got quite a few, but I'll try and get it in for you. George Green, here for the dad jokes. All right, mate. Let's see what we can do. Okay. So we've got quite a few to get through. So I'm probably going to skip through them a bit. So we're probably not going to listen to the full track. But let's just get going, eh? If I don't get them all done, then maybe I'll like do a second stream during the week or something like that. But I think we should be fine. Let's go. All right, well, this is a vibe, man. I'm really liking this. Dunk, thanks for sending it, bro. I would say one issue that I'm hearing is like there's a lot of saturation on a lot of elements. Like your hats sound really crunchy. The kind of like organ lead sounds are really crunchy. Some of the other synths are really crunchy. I think it's like I use saturation quite heavily on some elements in my tracks, and I think it's a really powerful tool. It can like give things like a really cool gritty sound, and it can like push things forward in the mix, make them appear louder without actually increasing the volume. But if you put a lot of saturation or overdrive or whatever distortion on a lot of different elements, the combined effect is that basically your track just sounds distorted. Now, looking at the waveform here, I've pulled this down by minus 2 dB to get it to a loudness of like around minus 9 LUFS. So some of the saturation and distortion could be coming from the fact that you're limiting the track like crazy. Like for this style, I wouldn't go this far with the limiting. So I'm not sure. It could be that you're using a lot of saturation or it could just be that you're like way over compressing the master and creating distortion, but it doesn't sound great. Also, like, to get a track this loud with mastering, you don't just slam a limiter on the end and crush it. You know, it's you do it in stages. You limit things in kind of buses, and then you do a series of compression on the master, and it's pretty complicated to get it right. Because I think, if I remember correctly, before I pulled the volume down, it was like hitting around -6 LUFS, which is really fucking loud. You know, like that's what you'd expect from a track on Toolroom kind of thing, a kind of a modern tech house kind of track, you know. So yeah, sorry, I know I'm going on about the saturation and the limiting and stuff, but I think it's important because it can really destroy the first impression of your track. I think the vibe is cool. So I can hear that, yeah, it's like bringing up a lot of sibilants in the vocal as well. So the other thing with putting limiting on the tracks that you send to me to give feedback, it makes it really difficult for me to actually give detailed feedback because I can't hear the detail because it kind of fucks everything up. Right? So cool vibe, I like it, but I can't really give too much detailed feedback because you've kind of destroyed the dynamics and the integrity of the sound. But good vibe, man. I like it. So the mix of this is pretty it's not sounding very tight in the mix. Like the claps super loud, the kick is really loud, some of the other elements are a bit too quiet. I like the vibe you've got. Also, you've got a sub in there that is way too low. Like it's hitting around like -20, sorry, around 20 hertz or something. Let's have a look. Like 17 hertz. Most systems aren't gonna play that, and it's just kind of causing chaos with the track. Like a lot of people will cut the cut things below like 30. I know some people even cut stuff like below 50. I generally roll off from about 25 hertz. So if I roll off from 25 hertz on this, yeah, it's kind of causing chaos. I would just avoid putting subs in those frequencies. Luca, yeah, I'd set the stream up when I was in Brazil, so the local time was different to the time here. So yeah, sorry about the confusion there. So it is earlier than what I had scheduled it for on YouTube. Apologies for that, but like always, it will be there to replay. So you can watch it if you didn't get the update and tune in on to watch it live. So yeah, it's a bit chaotic, man.
Make your transition. Make your transition.
That vocal and everything is really, really, really loud. Also, so the vocal is from Underground Resistance, and this vocal sample has a history of causing issues. David Herrero a few years back had like a situation where he'd used the vocal on a track. I think it was released on Stereo Productions, I think. And it was like on Resident Advisor and all this stuff. Like people, the guys from Underground Resistance were up in arms because it had been sampled without permission so many times and released, and it was kind of like, I'm not sure if, yeah. So it caused a lot of negative feedback for David Herrero when he sampled it. So two things there: it's been sampled a lot, and it's also, you just want to be careful with who you're sampling and how you're sampling and that kind of thing.
Questions. Am I happy with who I am? Am I happy with... Make your transition. Make your transition. Make...
So you've got some cool ideas in here. The whole thing seems a bit like a sketch. If I had to guess, I would say that you're relatively new to production, so it's fine. Like I'm not saying like you've done wrong, you're doing it wrong, or it's bad or something. I'm just trying to give you some feedback as to things you could improve. So yeah, the volume of everything is a bit out of whack. Quite a lot of things are very loud. So to fix that, I've got a couple of videos on the channel that talk about how to level, balance your track, and also use reference tracks, like just compare A/B your track to a track that you like that's got a spoken word vocal or something like that. Look at the frequency spectrum of other tracks just to get an idea. Like it also sounds like you might not be monitoring in ideal conditions, which is like super common. So just use some other tools. If you can't like trust the listening environment that you're in, then use some other tools like spectrum analysis and just like looking at waveforms of other tracks and that kind of thing. All right, hopefully that was helpful, man. Good stuff. Keep pushing, and look forward to hopefully hearing another one from you next time. All right. I think this has got a really cool vibe, man. I think you've done really well. Weekend Department. I particularly liked kind of like when it was coming in, when it was building up, and you introduced the bass line. Nice bass line. It's got a bit of resonance on there, so it kind of cuts through. Sounds good. These kind of like big dramatic stab chord things that the doom doom. It'd be cool to have something else that kind of that has like a bit of a call and response to them, like so they go like doom doom, and then something else goes that's like in a different, with a like different sound and a different part of the frequency spectrum. Could be like a drum fill or some kind of more staccato kind of synth that kind of plays off it. I don't know, I think it would just give a bit more depth and complexity to the melodic elements. I like the way that you introduce this vocal. It's got like a kind of 2015 deep house kind of vibe, which I really like. Almost like, yeah, like early kind of Hot Since 82, dusky, like Motor Black label kind of stuff. Yeah, nice. And then I like the way that you've used the vocal. It's cool. The drop was a bit underwhelming, I think. And this part's really cool where you bring these strings in, but I think you need to like just create a bit more impact, like I think from there you need to just start like ramping it up, create more tension, create more excitement, and then like when you drop back in, have it, you kind of drop back in to a more chilled kind of beat. I would like drop back in to like party time full beat. Like maybe drop back in with, I don't know, some rides or something, and take out the big chords, so you've got just more of like a pushing kind of heads down vibe, and then you can bring that stuff in, bring the vocal in, bring the chords in, and then yeah, so you kind of got you're reserving some things on the drop so you can use them to build up again to another crescendo. But yeah, really cool vibe, man. Love it. really like the vibe of this. I think that some of this background texture that you've got is a bit over the top, like it's quite distracting. What I would recommend is like maybe, I'm not sure if it's like loops or it's a bunch of different stuff, but take all of that background texture stuff, group it, bring it right down, and then bring it back up into the mix, and just have it kind of so it's a background, because at the moment it's like really quite in front of the mix. Another thing, so I mean, let's keep listening, because it sounds like some of the main kind of elements of the track are coming in, but it started off with a kind of progressive vibe. Maybe it's going a bit more melodic techno now. Let's see. So it's got, you've done like a really good job. I think that if you listen to like, so I guess it's going more of a melodic techno, like progressive techno kind of direction. So if you listen to stuff by people like Artbat, Dino Lenny, Fur Coat, that type of thing, you'll notice that their beats are really stripped back. It doesn't mean that they're boring or simple or whatever, but there's a lot of space for all of these big like lead synths and stuff like that, and you've got quite a full beat, which means that when this big lead comes in, there's not really a lot of space for it. The track just starts to sound cluttered, right? So, and I think you bring in a couple of other little synth sounds that are doing the right thing, but I think the sounds could be tweaked a bit to just sound a little bit more on point. Also, some of the balance of some of the elements, like the ride, just sounds really loud and kind of overpowering. Cool, good stuff, man. I think that it's got real good potential. I think I would just like go back a little bit to the drawing board with the beat and just maybe like listen to some reference tracks. Something that is quite helpful to do is like, say, turn off all your beat and then find a reference track with a beat that you like that's got kind of similar number of elements, and then just loop like the start of it where it's just the beat, and just play that along with your track and see if that fits, and then try to kind of figure out the main core elements that they're using, and then make yourself a list and just add in similar things. One other thing is, in this breakdown, it's cool that you've got these different elements coming in, but they sound a bit disjointed. Like it sounds a bit random and a bit like just thrown in. So I think you're doing a lot of the right things. It's just about like refining them and making them sound a bit more cohesive and fitting in the track, so that everything kind of just sounds a little bit more like it's meant to be there and it's all working together. But I think it's got potential to be a really, really cool track, man. To cruise, let's go. I think that tom's a bit loud. Like the beat sounds really tight and nice, but the tom is a bit overpowering. Okay, so the arrangement here doesn't quite work for me, because you're kind of building up energy to this. This should be like the bit where things really start going, right? Because if you think about it in functional terms, like someone's mixing in and then they get to here and then they're kind of like swapping over the tracks, and then this track drops and it's kind of the new main track that people are listening to, right? And you just kind of drop away all the energy by stripping away the drums and then adding in these kind of dreamy chords. So listen to that compared to, it's got more energy, right? This could be like a cool bridge kind of section in another part of the track, but I think you need to work up to it. So I would just keep the energy flowing through here. And I would leave the vocal till later in the track, maybe introduce it in the break, because you've kind of, it's going to be the main focus of the track, and then you've kind of let it go right at the start, so it's not going to be kind of surprising or interesting for the rest of the track. So maybe that there, I feel it tonight part, I guess it's the chorus, right? You could use that through this section, just like filter it down, put some delay on it, or just try and kind of make something interesting with it that signifies that there's a vocal in the track, but doesn't give away the whole thing, and then use the like verse, chorus, whatever in the break here or something. So like it's got real good potential, bro. I think just like when you're using vocals, especially like this sounds like it's something from a sample pack, think it's important to try and use them in a way that is a bit more refined. It's always tempting, if you've got like a lot of vocal, it's always tempting to kind of use it all, right? But I think like listening to it in an analytical way and trying to find a hook within it that you can use, and so you can kind of, because you're trying to create tension and trying to create like somewhat of a journey through the track, right? So if you're able to like just create some chops or something like that, and then people are kind of like wondering, oh, is there more? Oh, that sounds cool. I like the sound of that. I wonder if it's going to have a full vocal, so you're kind of teasing it. You're playing with people's emotion, or and it creates tension, it creates excitement. But if you have like a full kind of verse chorus kind of thing here, then here, then here, the track just all sounds the same. The vocal gets stale, yeah. I would say just try to rein it back, let the beat kind of be the track, and then the vocal is kind of like the icing on top. And just reference other tracks, how they use vocals, tracks that you like, and get like a few, maybe 2, 3, 4 tracks that've got vocals. And I do this sometimes when I don't know how to arrange a vocal that I'm using, and like go through and highlight the sections where they're using the vocal, then maybe chop it and give it like a different color, right? And you can say, okay, that's the intro part. Okay, here they bring in some like vocal chops. Oh, okay, here they've got the full chorus or whatever. So then you can kind of like compare these different tracks and analyze how they're doing things, and then listen to your vocal and get like an idea of what might work, But I think referencing is like super important. And from what I see in these track feedbacks and in the like mentoring calls that I have with people, it's quite underutilized, unfortunately, because you can learn so much from other people's tracks. Enrico asked when the next feedback will be. I'm not too sure, bro. Generally do one a month, and I kind of fit them in around my schedule with like DJing and that kind of thing. So if I'm super busy, or I see I've got something important coming up that it means that I'm not going to be able to make a video that week, then I try and fit in a live stream. So I can't tell you, but we'll probably be one in December, probably sometime around Christmas or something. Anyway, let's have a listen. Barry Goody, way back. So this is cool. I like the way you're building up. You've got these kind of glitchy atmosphere things in the background, which I feel like are a bit too loud for my taste anyway. I think that you could kind of ease them in a bit more. And by using some automation, like some volume automation or some filter automation or something, you can kind of make it a bit more interesting and use them to create a bit more tension and like intensity as you come through the track. It's also like, I think it's quite, the whole thing's quite static. Like it's pretty, other than this vocal starting to come in, it's pretty much the same the whole way through. So think about it in terms of, I'm not sure if you're a DJ or not, but like it's also 8 minutes long. So like that's pretty long for a track in 2022. Like, you know, you're not Ricardo Villalobos, bro. No, but I would say like just try to strip it down, because you've got this like really long intro where nothing's happening. So, but you bring the bass line in right from the start, right? So just bring the bass line in a bit later, build it up, reference some tracks about how they're building up their tracks and how they're introducing elements and building energy in the track. And you really do try to think about it as an intro. It's if your track's 8 minutes, it's not made for Spotify, it's made for DJs, you know. So what you want to listen for is like, how's the energy moving through the track, what's keeping people engaged, and also like being restrained, holding things back but keeping it interesting. And one of the best ways you can do that is by automating things so that they come in gradually, and using a combination of easing things in and then having kind of moments of drama where something just comes straight in on the one or something like that. Using things like just taking one of the kick out every 4 bars, or the last kick out every 8 bars, having a crash on the downbeat or a little fill, just to kind of make things less loopy. Yeah. So let's see what happens here. I will say, like, the beat and the groove that you've got going on is cool, and I like this vocal that you've got coming in. So like there's potential there for it to be cool. I think just refining it a bit and focusing a bit more on how people are going to listen to and engage with the track. So this little melody thing that you've got in there doesn't sound bad, but it's not really interacting with the beat. It's like, I'm not sure how you've done it, but it sounds like just a loop that you've put in there. So, you know, I'm not saying that loops, that it's wrong to use loops. You do whatever you want. I think it's really important not to put constraints on yourself that I can't do this, I can't use that. But at the end of the day, you need to make them, like, incorporate them into the track. The track is built up from the sum of its parts. It's not just a strong track anyway will be more than the sum of its parts. It's not just like a drum beat and a melody loop and a vocal loop and stacked on top of each other. They should be interacting and kind of building up to make something that's stronger than just the sum of its parts. Yeah, so the vocal, the beat, and the melody are all just kind of happening independently at the same time. So the sounds are cool and the sounds work together. I think just finding the timing that creates interaction between them.
Now just a little my voice down, just a now just a little my voice down, just a.
So this is cool what you've done with the vocal here. I would try to create, so you've got these kind of vocal chops and stuff. I would try to create a bit more interest with them, like putting on some delay and reverb, and maybe putting some sends. Like, I've got a bunch of different things here, but let's say this is going to be to like a big delay, big reverb.
Down just a little, my voice down just a little.
You know, just kind of doing some stuff like that, doing some more like one-off effects and like more intricate edits, so that it, because everything in the track sounds very loopy, so just kind of digging in a bit deeper and refining the process a bit. But yeah, I think the elements you've got in there, the beat and stuff, it's cool. It's really cool. Nice strong percussion groove. Everything's like working well together and kind of complementing each other. It all sounds very well balanced, and like, yeah, very like the things are interacting together. It sounds like a beat, not just a bunch of things happening, which is great. That's what you want. I think you could probably leave the piano chords till a bit later. I guess they're piano chords. They still sound a bit filtered still. Everything works really well. I'm just like looking at it, and you've got a, what is it, 7 minutes track here? Yeah, almost 7 minutes. And you're bringing a lot of stuff in at 30 seconds. It's building up in a natural sounding way, but I think you could just delay it a little bit, because this is clearly like an extended mix or a DJ mix or something. It's not like a Spotify version, so you don't need to just get into everything straight away. I think you can give yourself a bit more time and a bit more restraint, and ease things in a bit. Here, like up until that acid sound came in, everything sounded very well balanced. I think now you've got quite a lot of energy competing in this like low mids area, because you've got like this bass line that's like, if the bass line was more subby and you didn't open the cutoff here, then there would be more space for the acid sound. But at the moment, the bass and this kind of acid sound are competing for space.
I spent a lifetime wondering about you, and I'm getting higher, just thinking of us two. And if you're really out there, it's really you. And what's the road there?
I don't know how to say your name, dude. D05, D5, DOS, DOS. I'm not sure, but I think it sounds pretty well balanced. It sounds a bit, especially now that there's the acid sound, the bass and the vocal, it's starting to sound a bit claustrophobic. I think all of these elements can exist in the track for sure, but I think they just maybe need their own space, their own time in the track, like so that you have a section where you've got the mid-range of the bass open, you have a section where you pull that back, make the bass more subby, and then have the acid sound, and then you have a section where the vocal is in with the subby bass, you know, so that they're not all competing for the same space. So up until the acid sound, I think everything sounded really well balanced, and that is kind of confirmed on the spectrum analysis. One other thing, I think you could introduce a bit of the vocal a bit better. It just kind of comes out of nowhere. So some of this like atmospheric stuff that you've got going on here could be used to kind of imply that there's going to be a vocal coming. Really like that flute sound that comes in. It's like there's space for it in the mix. Like you notice when that comes in compared to when some of the other things come in before, it doesn't make it feel more kind of claustrophobic and crowded in the mix, right? It just sits there. It's open, there's space for it. So I think what you're doing here is kind of going through the track in a linear way and adding more things, whereas you need to kind of, when you add something, you can also subtract something, and then it's going to kind of create a bit more balance and consistency and avoid that claustrophobic kind of overcrowded feeling. But all the elements that you're adding sound really good, fit really well together, work for the vibe. So I think from like a production side and a mixing side, everything's really on point, man. I think you've done a fantastic job. It's just about like, yeah, it's the arrangement and the kind of like combining elements throughout the track to make it a bit more cohesive and give each thing its kind of time to shine. And by doing that, you also create a bit more dynamics in the arrangement and keep things interesting and flowing. You know, that acid line, if you bring it in and then bring it out, it's cool. So people are going to want to hear it again. So it gives you the chance to bring it in and then give people what they want, you know, give people what they're waiting for. Cool. D05. Let's go, buddy. DO5, so I can have a bit of context. Can you drop in the chat some like labels or artists that would be a reference for this, so I can kind of understand exactly what you're going for? It doesn't have to be perfect, just so it gives me an idea of like where it's intended to be. Right. So ideally you would let me know about some references, but so because I don't really have an idea of what you're going for with it. It sounds really good, and it sounds really well produced. The mix down is really good, super solid. All of the sounds are kind of on point and work well together, which is cool. I was made back in the day. Okay. So what I was going to say, that's funny. So what I was going to say is that it sounds a bit outdated. It sounds like some kind of like early to mid 2000s Vengeance sounds in there, and like from that kind of electro progressive house era, like Deadmau5, Wolfgang Gartner, Bassclef, that kind of thing. So okay, I guess I was kind of on point there. I think it's really well made. I think it sounds very outdated, which it is, and I would love to hear what you're doing now. But I think like the thing is, some of these sounds that you've used, these kind of like 80s synthy sounds, are back in vogue in like kind of like indie dance as the beatport genre, which I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, but it's kind of like a subcategory of sorry, Dickie Clear, Super Mario House Vibes. Roasted. Sorry. What was I saying? Yeah, so I think you could like remix this yourself in a kind of more modern, with a more modern take on it, and I think it could be really cool. It's really well made, just sounds pretty dated to me. So hopefully next stream you've got something fresh to show us. I'd be really interested in hearing that. Let's go, bruh. Downpour. Okay. Hold on to your hats, guys, because this dude's fucking sick. What's my advice on releasing something like this in this day and age? Fuck, I don't know, dude. Like, yeah, okay. You see, I answered it. I don't know. The thing is, I don't even think that if you sent that to Mousetrap, that Dead Mouse would be interested in releasing it. Like I said, it's not bad. It just doesn't sound like other stuff that's being released right now. And the music business is a business. People are in it because they're passionate about music and that kind of thing, but it's all about money anyway. Like if you're running a label, maybe your sole purpose for that label is not to buy a Lamborghini, but you certainly don't want to be taking risks on releasing things that are very out of fashion or outdated, or you want to be releasing something that is I don't know, more up to date. Yeah, okay, not that label style, but anyway, I'm not super. It's not like my wheelhouse entirely, so I'm just kind of like giving you a broad reference of things that were kind of big in that era. Anyway, Downpour. This dude is fucking sick. He's one of my favorite artists that I've discovered recently, and I'm always excited to hear new stuff from him. So let's hope that this is no different. So while obviously the style of his tracks is very relevant to the style of stuff that I do, so I really like it, but objectively you can hear that his track is already nailing all of the things that I was either complimenting or suggesting people work on in the previous tracks. Like there's a clear build up and progression of energy coming through. Everything makes sense in the introduction. It's not giving away too much, but things are coming in gradually to create interest and kind of hint at what might be to come. Excuse me. So it's kind of building tension. It's keeping it exciting, but it's not letting the whole story away right from the start. And it's simple, but still engaging. There's not too much going on. There's just enough to kind of make it interesting. And the things that are there are interacting with each other to create like a more depth and kind of tension within the music. this sound that you've brought in here, it's quite prominent in the mix. So I would say try to have a bit of movement on it, because it's quite static, and so if something's kind of a bit further back in the mix, then you're not really going to notice that it's not changing too much, especially when other things are changing around it. But when you've got it like really in the forefront of the mix, then it becomes quite obvious that it's not doing anything. So I would just put a bit of movement on that, or tuck it back in the mix a little bit. Maybe a little bit of both. Because as the other elements started coming up and it came back in the mix, to me it sounded better. It sounded more like more balanced. Okay, so this sound that you bring in here in the build-up, like functionally, it's doing something really important. And it could just be a personal thing, but I just don't really particularly like the sound. But what you're doing by like bringing in this other kind of main lead element is something that I try to do quite a lot on my tracks, and something that can be really important to create engagement and kind of create like another really interesting dramatic moment in the track, right? So I think functionally what you're doing here is really, really cool. I just think the sound could be better, could be more engaging. This other sound that you bring in here, this like arpy kind of do, that's really, really cool. It fits perfectly in the track. I just feel like this kind of nasally mid-range lead sound isn't really adding what it should to the track. This stuff is not always easy, but I think you're on the right track, and it's just a matter of like trial and error. Sometimes these things just happen on the first go. Sometimes it takes time to refine it and get it sounding right. I remember when we were talking on Zoom, I showed you one of my tracks that like basically has the same issue, and I'm still working on it. Like the track, it works, I think it's cool, I've played it, but I'm just not happy with that sound yet. So I'm going through the same process, and that can take time, just give it a go, leave it, listen back. If you're not happy, give it some space. I think it's important to just keep working on tracks, keep making more, and then you can always make changes to tracks, but I think just keep going, make more, make as many as you can, and then that way you can kind of like go forward with the ones that have the most potential. Anyway, dude, also you sent me a couple of tracks to send to a label as demos. Sorry, I haven't got back to you on that. I will definitely do that. Can you put those tracks together into a SoundCloud playlist? It's just a bit less complicated for the label if they can have one link rather than 3 or 4 or however many it was that you sent. All right, so do that and then I'll send them off as a demo for you. Cool. Bro, your track is almost 9 minutes long and you're starting with 30 seconds of hi-hat. Like, I don't know. You're not grabbing me from the start, you know? Like, you don't need 30 seconds of intro like this. It's not adding value to the track. It's not like grabbing the listener, and there's not anything happening, you know. So start with this. Like, this is irrelevant. Get it out of here. You can save. 9 minutes is way too long for a track these days, man. So you can just get straight into it here. It sounds like your bass line is playing the same frequency as your kick. Like, it sounds very muddy in the low end. So there seems to be a lot of confusion about this idea of tuning kicks and bass, or kicks to the key of your track and that kind of thing. I think like the bass pattern's cool. It just sounds very muddy in the low end with the kick. And I can. I'm not sure. It could be a matter of just adding a bit more mid-range into the bass. I'm not too sure, but the kick and the bass aren't quite interacting as they should for me. Also, like a lot of, so I know it's minimal, right? But it should also be interesting, and there's not much change, there's not much happening. There's not much, like, it just sounds very linear and static, right? So you don't have to, tracks can be minimal and still interesting, and probably the tracks that you like are, right? So it doesn't mean that you need to add more things. It's just like, listen to some reference tracks, see how they play with the things that they've got in the track, and kind of help them, use them and manipulate them to create interest and keep things rolling along and keep the listener engaged. like this kind of glitchy lead thing that you've got that comes in. It interacts quite well with the beat and the bass line, and yeah, it definitely adds to the track and gives it like a pretty unique rolling kind of vibe. So I mean, yeah, it's got a cool vibe. I just think like try to make it more interesting. Don't assume that people are just going to listen because it's there. You know, you need to work to keep their attention. I think that's really important to keep in mind with any style of music, but especially with more stripped back clubby types of music. Yeah, but I think it's not like a matter of needing to add more things. It's just like do more with what you've got, and I think it could be a really cool tune. Also, like, yeah, I don't know. I think that 8 minutes is a bit long for a track these days. I don't know. I could be, you know, maybe I'm not playing this style, and maybe this is normal for that style, but I don't know. I think it's safer to make tracks that are somewhere between kind of 6 and 7 minutes. Luca said he had some issues with mixing, or some difficulty mixing and mastering this. The mix so far sounds pretty good. Everything sounds pretty balanced. I think you could probably ease in this kind of pad atmosphere. It starts pretty high in the mix. I would like filter it down a bit, maybe bring it down in volume a bit, and then you can kind of use it to ease the energy in the track. And just by having an element like that just evolves as the track is starting, then it kind of means that you don't need to do too much more, because it keeps this kind of constant building feeling in the track, and that allows you to then do more later. Okay. I think harmonically that Reese isn't quite working. I think it could just be a matter of like pulling the cutoff back a little bit. It just sounds a bit kind of resonant and a bit fahy. I don't know. You've had some other. It could be the key of the track, but you've had some other basses that sound a bit more compelling. So I don't know. Have a look at that. Also, if you keep the filter closed a bit more, it means that you can open it up in some sections to create intensity, and it's probably going to make it a bit easier to mix as well, because the bass line isn't taking up so much of the frequency spectrum. So your vocal sounds very like swamped and drowned in this track. It's less apparent there, but in this section here, the vocal is just kind of like overcrowded by everything else that's going on, and that's not really, it's partly a mixing thing, but I think there's often like a misconception that like you just do whatever you want in the track and then fix it when you do the mix down, right? And I think it's kind of a misconception. I think it's really important to keep in mind the mix, or when you're writing the track, having space for your elements and kind of doing things with a little bit of purpose and intention, and going like, okay, well, this pad is going to occupy this space, so I don't need another thing that's going to occupy that space. Or if I have another thing that's going to occupy that space, then I need to take the pad out and give the new thing preference. And doing that kind of thing is just going to make, instead of having the mix be complicated, it's going to make it super easy, because everything has space, everything sounds clear. So it's just a matter of like refining that a little bit by using volume balance and stuff. So the mix technically sounds pretty good, like the balance of things, everything sounds punchy. It's more the songwriting and the selection of elements that are going to be in the track together at the same time that is causing you the issues, I think. So you can hear straight away that kind of string lead thing that comes in is going to be fighting for space with the vocal if they're playing at the same time. See, in this section here, the vocal really stands out. It has space. So I think it's just a matter of tweaking the arrangement so that you can kind of give priority to different elements at different times and present them in a way that works best for them. So this is working really well for the vocal. It kind of creates the tension that the vocal is implying that it should have, because it's quite a delicate vocal, so it needs space to exist, right? If you play it while this kind of quite heavy beat is going with this like quite open reese and then these like bright pads, it's just going to wash into the background. Whereas here it's creating intensity, which it should, so I think you've got really cool elements in the track. It's just the way that you've combined them and maybe refining some of them a little bit, like the reese, to give like frequency priority to some other elements so that everything can coexist well together. Yeah, I think really cool. I really like this lead that comes in, and it switches things up, and there is space for it. So I think you're almost there. You just need to kind of like have a bit of a think about how the flow of these different elements is going to go through the track and why, and then give them their own kind of section and priority. Okay, ууууGEAR, Apriya. Let's go. Okay, this is the shortest track of no, not the shortest track of the day. Oh, it's not even that short of a track. Okay, let's go. Nice rolling kind of groove there. Oh shit, I missed this hands in the air moment on the rake. Okay, sorry. Good stuff, Luca. Really cool track, man. Like, yeah, just make a few small tweaks and you'll nail it, I think. This is off to a really nice start, but I think you're doing too much too soon. Yeah, I guess it's just going to be a matter of the arrangement, but like, if this is 5 minutes, I wouldn't say that's a Spotify later D05. I wouldn't say that's a Spotify edit. So I guess that's a DJ mix. So kind of, yeah, just hold back some of your ammunition, make it count. So yeah, this is really cool, and I think you've got enough to leave out these instruments that are coming in here and use them later in the track, because you bring in quite a bit here. You bring in this kind of melody here, which is unfortunately being a bit swamped by these kind of wind instruments that you've got in there, and then you've got a vocal. So just giving everything space a bit, I think, will really kind of help this. Also, like, just by not having that stuff there, it builds up in a more natural sounding way. And it means that when you bring those things in later, they're going to have like a stronger impact. Because by having them already in the track from like 15 seconds, they're going to get boring. Is that a key change? in general, I think it's got a really cool vibe. All of the sounds are fitting together. I think there's just a few too many sounds in there. I would just really go through a process of like turn everything off, turn on the kick, the beat, the bass, the vocal, and then try to decide like what's the absolute necessary elements, turn them on, and then just turn things on and off like one by one, trying to decide if they add or subtract from the kind of groove, because at the end of the day, you want the groove and the kind of you want all the elements to be working together, and it feels like there's just a few things that are a bit too disparate and a bit kind of it feels like there's maybe a couple of things that just need to be turned off, and then everything will have space and it will all just work. And it may be that you can use them in different sections of the track and kind of turn things off in one section and bring them in another one. But yeah, I think it's got really good potential, man. I think just decide what's it about, what's the point of the track, and let that shine. This kind of I don't know, bell-like sound, I can see like a resonance there. This kind of resonant sound that's poking through, it's quite prominent in the mix, and it's there from the start, and it's not doing anything. So if you're going to have a sound that's really kind of in the mix the whole time and is quite forward in the track, then it needs to be doing something. It needs to be interesting. Otherwise, it draws too much attention to itself, and then it becomes obvious that it's just kind of sitting there, and it starts to get either boring or annoying. I think, yeah, a couple of things. It's just quite a bit too loud, and it's a bit too static. So, but everything else sounds really good. Really nice, like tight, subby bass. There's good space in the mix, so the bass has like room to exist, even though it's not got a lot of mid-range. So yeah, it sounds really good. The low end sounds really cool. If I pull this down here, really nice, well balanced, good space in the low end. And that's a really, really simple thing that you can do to listen to your low end and kind of hear how the kick and bass are interacting together, and you can kind of, yeah, you can get a real sense of if they're working together cohesively. So the vibe of the track is really cool, and everything kind of sounds like it's, you're obviously going for this kind of organic house, All Day I Dream kind of vibe, and it sounds like on point. The thing that's missing, and this is unfortunate, is a hook, man. It's got like, it sounds right, but it's not memorable. Like, the vocal bit is cool, but it doesn't stand out enough to make me remember the track and go like, oh, or like, just like when you're thinking about your track, is it a filler track, or is it a track that, like, let's say Lee Burridge is playing, he posts a new set on SoundCloud or a new set on YouTube or something. What's the track in that set that people are in the comments going like, oh, give me the ID on the track at 30 minutes, or, like, oh shit, what's that track? Oh man, I need to know that track. Those tracks that people are asking for are going to be the ones that have got some kind of like unique, memorable hook. I think you've got the foundation of something really cool here, but a foundation alone probably isn't going to get a track signed to the labels that you want to get it signed to, or like perform the way that you want it to perform in the club, or or to engage with the listener in the way that you want your tracks to engage with the listener. So I think I used to have this problem with my tracks as well, and the way I kind of overcame that is by focusing on that. And it's not to say that it's not easy. It's really, really difficult to make a track that has an engaging hook, and it's, that's what I focus on. That's what I focus on now, is I try to, because I figured like, okay, it's not my strong point, so let me put all my energy into that, then I focus on, once I feel like I've got a cool hook and a strong idea and identity and personality for the track, then I go about making the beat and kind of the bass line, or because you've got a really strong foundation, you've got a really cool bass line, you've got a cool beat, a cool kind of atmosphere to this track, and so you can do that, right? Work on the identity, the hook, the personality of the track, and then use those skills that you've already got to fill in the rest, because the other stuff, the foundation is super important, but it's not what sells the track. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. Yeah. I hope it makes sense. I'm sure it does. It's probably not what you want to hear, but so that thing that just came in, that lead sound, pluck sound, whatever, melody, I think you could use it, like leave it out of that part of the track. It's quite intense, or at least like filter it way down so that you're able to use that intensity later in the track to do something more meaningful. So this almost has a little bit the opposite issue to the George Barbieri track before. It's great that you're kind of you're trying to create these strong leads, and you're almost doing it, but I think you've got these two things that are kind of happening quite chaotically at the same time. These two kind of like sequences that are not really complementing or interacting with each other. They're both like playing on top of each other and fighting for space and attention. So I think it's really good the way that you've got things coming in and out, but you want to have some consistency through the track. When you have like a thing come in, come out, and a new thing come in, it sounds a bit disparate. So it's like a balancing act between having things changing and having some things remaining consistent. The other thing I would say is that your kind of foundation of your track is probably not strong enough, hooky enough to support the lead elements that you've got. So like I was saying in about the last track, that you need to have these kind of strong hooks, right? It's also like a prerequisite that you have a strong foundation, that you've got like the beat nailed and the bass line nailed. It's not, but that doesn't make the track memorable. So you're focusing on, I think, like the right things in terms of like creating like a unique, engaging hook in the track. But you then have to come back and make sure that the beat and the bass and the foundation of the track is up to scratch with other music in the genre that you're going for. Maybe you guys should collab on something. Pan PJ, miss you.
And I miss you.
Your beat sounds quite narrow. I would just try panning a few things out a bit wider, have some things happening in the sides. It may happen later in the track, but I think it's important to use the kind of three-dimensional space in your mix. And by doing that, you can kind of fit things in, but it also becomes like more engaging for the listener. Everything in the mix is quite focused on the center.
And I miss you.
like you can't hear a lot of difference when I actually mono everything. So just by spreading things out, it's going to make the track sound bigger and give those elements like space to exist. And then, yeah, I think it's just gonna make it'll make your track sound more professional as well.
And I can almost hear you shout down to me where I always used to be. And I miss you. Like the deserts miss the rain.
So I think you've got a lot of really cool things in here. The vocal, is it Everything But the Girl? I think it is. Really nice vocal. I think the beat could be a bit more interesting, just a bit more textured, a bit more nuanced. Doesn't have to be like that doesn't mean like more things. It just kind of means things that are working well together. I don't know, reference, maybe just try chucking in a top loop lower in the mix or something. I don't know, but I think it just needs a bit more texture, something a bit more engaging about the beat. But the vibe you've nailed, and obviously I think it's Everything But the Girl, but iconic vocal. Love it. So yeah, I think just maybe work on your beats a bit, and but the writing part you've got, so that's a great place to be in, man. Good stuff. P3P, Crush Radio Edit.
Crush on you.
I think this new kind of brassy lead that you've brought in doesn't really, it's just kind of happening on top of the track. I don't think it really is melodically interacting or referencing the vocal or the bass line. It fits in terms of like there's space for it, but I think it could like enhance the track a bit better by having some kind of melodic engagement with the rest of the track. it's nice the way that you're using it to create different sections with the vocal. So I think just refining the melody that you're playing, just simple is better. It doesn't have to be something like using something that's familiar, like the melody of the vocal, or like taking the melody of the vocal and then changing it a bit, is going to kind of create like this strong reinforcement of the theme of the track.
What a craze. I got a crush. I got a crush. I got a crush. I got a crush. I got a crush on you. Just hold me close. You know you want.
So like here, when everything's playing together, it's not hitting right. The melody and the vocal, for me anyway, are fighting for space and not really complementing each other, not really interacting. So I think if you can nail that, then you've got like a really solid track on your hands. Everything kind of fits and is pretty well mixed. I think that could really bring it up to the next level.
I got a crush. How much I want.
Yeah, the beat's nothing special, but I don't think it's about the beat in this kind of track. It's just more like the energy of the track. I think, yeah, solid stuff. Just try to get that engagement and that interaction going with those elements, and it should be good. Ooh. From the start, I think you've got too much going on, but I really like where this is going. Don't know what all this is about. So I would just instantly, from the second I play it, I'm like, take some of that shit out, because then you can add it later in the track and make it more engaging. Reference, listen to some tracks on Sudbeat and hear what they do. Because you're at 30 seconds here and you're already at a place where a track that you might reference would be when they're at like 2 minutes or something. I think you could do more on that, having like a bigger impact on that. You almost got it, but it didn't quite hit right when it dropped back in. Having like a snare or a clap with like a big reverb on it or something like that, or a stab or a growl or something before or on the one, or yeah. Again, like if you reference like tracks by Sid Inc. or Dmitry Molov or something like that, this chord change that you've got happening here is really cool, but I would save it until later in the track. Like just have it going on the same like root note that you've got up until here or something, you know, so just saving that ammunition. So this kind of like piano-ish sound that you've got coming in here is really cool, and it's got quite a bit. It's got a bit more emotion and depth than this other more synthy, bump, brassy kind of sound that you've got here. But it's being overpowered by the brassy sound. So I would maybe take the brassy sound out, let that piano sound breathe a bit more and come a bit to the forefront, and then you can bring the brassy sound back in to create more tension and intensity, because it's more of an intense sound, right? But when they're playing together, they're kind of fighting for space, and it's not allowing this piano sound to do what it should be able to do, which is to create some emotion and depth in the track. So yeah. So yeah, it kind of sounds there like the piano is trying to chill it out and the brass is trying to build it up. So the two are kind of conflicting. So I think they can both coexist in the track. Just think about what the point of them is and what they're trying to do for the track, and have that happen separately so that they can kind of fulfill their potential. So I think you've like absolutely nailed the beat and the bass and the groove to the track, but I think this melodic hook just needs to be a bit more refined. It's kind of signaling the right things that a track in the same genre that would perform better is doing, but there's some kind of conflict going on there. It doesn't have as strong a theme as it could. So I think just like try to figure that out, and you've got the foundation of a absolutely sick track that I'd play. But this kind of emotive section isn't quite working. But close, so keep pushing. Houston, Addicted. This vocal atmosphere in the background, get a bit of movement in it, have it like building up, because it's like at first it sounds really cool, but then it's just not doing anything. There's not anything kind of happening. So yeah, just keep it moving. Perfect, like this. Really nice kind of little chord thing there through that mini break. Really nice vibe on this, and something that you're doing very, very well, which I haven't heard being done so well in many of the previous tracks, is like you've got this consistent theme of like this rising choir vocal that resets each time there's a one of these mini breaks, and then it kind of keeps going. So it's like you're not reinventing the wheel, but you've got some more elements that are building up, and then this thing that kind of drops away and then comes back to create more intensity and create more tension, and it's familiar. So it's kind of got this reoccurring pattern that, because the rest of the elements are building up in the track, it allows that thing to fulfill the same purpose again and again and again, which creates consistency but also movement and tension and release in the track. So you've done that really, really well. Also a really simple beat, but really strong. And this is what I mean when I say like things don't need to be complicated. They just need to be, they need to work and be engaging. So you've got this like layers of depth in the beat. The main beat is really simple, but then you've got these kind of more dubbed out snare hits and stuff in the background, which give it depth and layers and keep it kind of sounding interesting. Very nice vocal and very tasteful the way that you used it there to build up in the, I thought you were going to keep it going when it said baby on the drop, but really good use of that, the way that you took it out. It's a bit nitpicky about that string. Like everything that you've kind of added until this point felt very natural. That string feels a bit kind of whiny or something. I think just try some different presets or samples or whatever you're using the string from, and I think you can find something that's going to sound a bit more natural and sit in the track a bit more nicely.
I'm addicted. I'm addicted to your love.
Yeah, this is great. You've done a fantastic job on this, man. Well done. So I just a few little pretty minor things that I've mentioned there that could maybe be improved, but in general it's really, really good. Keep us posted. I'm sure you can get that kind of sorted, get a few of those little things ironed out, and I'm sure you can get this signed for sure, man. Stan, I saw your track there in the email. I will try and get to it. I've just got to get these other ones done, and I really need to pee, so we'll see how long I can hold on. Really nice start. This is fantastic. It's like simple, but it's got atmosphere, movement. It's engaging right from the start, but it's not going to be like overwhelming to mix in or something like that. I would say that you could probably extend out this intro a bit longer. Let's see what happens in the track, but that may give it a bit more longevity. Yeah, so it's pretty much the same here at 45 seconds as it is here at 1 minute 45 seconds, right? So just extend this intro to kind of bring things in a bit slower, and like work to getting to this place in a bit more like paced out, and then it's going to flow nicer, and those things are going to stay engaging for longer. Really nice sound selection in here, like all these little chords and this kind of growl stab thing, like they fit really perfectly to the vibe, and they're doing what they need to, and they don't sound out of place. They're not over the top. They're not distracting from the solid groove that you've got going on. So really well done. Just as I said that, I think that one might be a bit over the top, but or maybe just bring it in here. I don't think you need to introduce it before the break, right? So you have this bit, then when the beat and stuff chills down, so what I would suggest doing here, okay, so take out that part that I was talking about, and bring it in here like you do, because there's just going to be more space for it. It's going to have, by the time it has a chance to get to be impactful and create drama, it's already gotten boring because you've brought it in here. This build up sounds really cool, but then when you drop back in with these kind of dubby chords, it loses a bit of intensity. So I would try dropping back in without those chords, and then maybe bring them in here or something, so that it's just a bit more straight driving beat and bass line. I'm not sure. Give it a go. And then maybe try using some of these kind of atmospheric growls and or this other kind of secondary synth that you've got here, because it's playing a bit of a faster pattern, so it could add a bit of energy here. So give that a go. But really cool track, man. Nice vibe. Really well done. Dickie, Knee Deep. Let's go. I really like this conga thing that you've got in here, but I would suggest having it play here, and then this one, have it like a more simplified pattern, something like, so it's making like a call and response type of thing. It could be also with a different sound, and it's just going to make it more interesting and more engaging throughout the track. So when you bring in this kind of intensely rhythmic pattern and then more percussion fills, the two are kind of competing for attention. I don't think necessarily that this new melody is super strong, so you could maybe just keep it simple and just use the percussion fills to take the place where you're using those to create attention, to seek attention from the listener, and then maybe then drop into a melody here. I don't think that melody is quite working. That bass that you've got that comes in there, it's really cool, but it's off to one side. Maybe it's because I'm on headphones, but it sounds really panned. I would put that more in the center and try to do that with your low end elements. yeah, I think just try some different ideas with that pattern to get some. It could take a bit of messing around, but I think you can get something that's a bit more engaging and is going to kind of carry the track a bit more. But other than that, it's really, really cool, man. Just nailing that lead sequence is gonna bring it all together. But yeah, really nailing the sound. I think this is screaming out. It sounds really good. It sounds like it's really nice, but I think it's screaming out for a more strong offbeat hi-hat. Like, where can I find one? Oh, right, of course it's not. It's not in time, is it? Where is it? Shit. 129. Not sure what's happened here. Yeah, obviously that hi-hat wasn't having the effect that I thought it might. But I think there's something there. Like the hats don't feel quite as driving as they could, and it makes the track feel a little more chilled. I think if you've just got a stronger main offbeat hi-hat, then it's going to give the track a bit more of a peak time feel. Yeah, I mean, I think the track's really strong. I like the way that it's kind of like repetitive, but everything's working together. There's kind of it's building up and then bringing it down, building up, bringing it down. So the energy's like flowing really well. And I don't know, man. It's just something about the hats that are not doing it for me. It feels like it's not quite living up to its potential. Yeah. I can't say exactly what it is. I don't know, try a 909. I don't know, man, but I think with that small tweak, it could be like absolute bomb. Let me see, I'm fucking busting for a piss, but we've got one more Stanwood, and let me just grab it. Come on. Right, Stan, you did get in very late, so I'm gonna go through this extremely quickly. I hope you understand. Where are we? Josh Butler feels good. Okay, that looks very, very compressed. Let's see. Really nice bass line. It's got a cool, it's like subby, but it's got a cool sound to it. I think it's wide, but it doesn't disappear when I mono it, so that's cool. I think the kick sounds a bit weird to me. I'm not... No, it works. It works here. Big fan of Josh Butler's music, but I'm not so familiar with this. It might be one of his ones on Defected, in which case I think it's you've done your own take on it, which is cool. It's a solid groover. The beat is pretty underground, kind of minimal, modern minimal. I guess I'm playing it too slow. No, too fast. So yeah, it provides a good contrast. The vocal's quite poppy, so it works well together. All the elements in the beat are working really nicely. It sounds solid. For me personally, I'm not the hugest fan of this kind of like solid grooves style. I find it a bit boring, but you know, I guess I'm the exception to the rule because it's super popular, and yeah, that's just for me personally. The mix down's really solid as well. Everything's got space, and it's kind of, I mean, it's relatively simple. The bass is pretty loud, I will say that much, but it seems to be working. So yeah, yeah, great stuff, man. I don't know if you'll be able to release it. You could chuck it up on SoundCloud or something as a free download, I think, or send it out to Michael Beebe, Porsa, those kind of dudes, see if someone plays it, and it could be like off to a good start. All right, guys, well, as I said, I'm busting for the bathroom right now. I'm going to pee my pants on stream here. So thanks very much for sending in your music, and sorry again that I couldn't do it last weekend, but I guess it gave a few more people the opportunity to send some stuff in, so that's cool. Yeah, and we will do another one in the not too distant future. As always, I'll let people know in the Patreon when it's coming up, and yeah, this will be available to watch back. So if you missed something, I mean, if you're watching this, yeah, if I gave you feedback on one of your tracks and you want to go back and check it out again, then it will be there. Yeah, if you're not subscribed, then please subscribe. We're almost at 10k, and it's a bit of a goal to hit 10k by the end of the year, so that would be nice. I always appreciate that, and let's do it. All right, peace. Talk soon.